Crime, Wine, and Chaos contains adult language and graphic content. Listener discretion is advised.
Tin soldiers and Nixon's coming, Chaos Kids. I'm Naomi.
Ooh, I'm Amber, and this is Crime, Wine, and Chaos. What's that from?
Oh, I was going to sing it, but then I wasn't feeling confident about it. So, little foreshadowing, like some real direct foreshadowing for you.
Oh, shit. All right. Hi, sister.
Hi.
Hi. What's happening?
With you? I know it's been a whole 24 hours since
it's been 24
less
hours.
Than 24 hours since we spoke last.
Oh my God.
On this podcast together.
I know. And we're vacationing this weekend together and then podcasting Monday. So you're going to have a long stretch of Amber. That's a lot of Amber.
No, look at me. I'm so excited.
Ooh,
I love it.
Oh,
I love
that's
it.
So nice of you.
It's going to be good.
Yeah, I'm good. I was plowing through my shit in the office today so that I can, be on vacay mode and not
not have that like stuff hanging over your head, knowing that it's waiting for you or piling up. Yeah.
Totally. So, just plowing through.
Okay. I'm hoping for some nice weather this weekend.
Samesies. Hoping to get some steps in. Looking
pretty nice today, which is amazing. You guys, I mean, we're in Seattle, so it's like the sun comes out and it's like, oh. So yeah, that's happening, which is great. Same. I got my hair cut today, which always feels good. It's like, a weight lifted off of me. I always feel a little extra perk in my step when I'm freshly shorn,
Yeah, I love that for you.
I don't know. Like, I love you and I love your whole look, but your hair, like sometimes just looking at it gives me anxiety. It's all I'm just saying.
Sure.
You know what I mean?
No, I do. I absolutely do. I get that a lot.
Other people say that besides me. Is that what you mean? Like your hair?
Were like, not quite those words, but that seems to be a lot to contend with.
It is a lot to contend with. Sometimes it's so much you find things in there, like days after fact.
Sure.
Also, I'm loving your shirt. You guys can't see her shirt, but it's all rainbowy and it's
my
adorable.
Rainbow shirt. Thank you.
I love it. I love it.
Thank you. I'm gonna. I'm gonna wash it when we're done here because I just treadmilled and so I'm sweaty, but I want to bring it this weekend because it's my new rainbow shirt.
Oh yeah. I'll bring some of my rainbow stuff. We'll be rainbow sisters.
Like Rainbow Bright and Sprite.
Yes. I think Rainbow Bright, totally tangential. I think if I recall correctly, Rainbow Bright was the first cartoon that was made specifically to sell the toy. The toy came first. And then they made a cartoon to bolster toy sales.
Well, I'm sure it worked.
I'm sure it totally worked.
You had Rainbow Bright and Sprite, didn't you?
I definitely had Rainbow Bright. I don't remember having Sprite.
Wow. Yeah. Well, that's cool. Rainbow Bright. God, what a throwback.
What are you drinking today, sis?
Thank you for asking. I'm drinking a Villa de Mare. It's rosé.
Oh.
And I'm going to bring the rest of it on our trip. Rosé. I have rosé. I have a big mamma jamma today. I've got a big one.
So do I. Let's get into it. Let's get into it. Give Chaos Kids what they come here for.
Okay. This one is huge trigger warning for child abuse.
Great.
This one is hashtag trending right now, which I'm usually not into, but I have just been really not fascinated sounds bad, like it's good, but just really on top of this case. So I'm going to tell you the story of Ruby Franke.
I have been seeing TikToks about this and just gotten snippets of this through like 1 to 3 minute TikTok videos where
All right. Well, you're going to get more than a snippet here, sister.
Yeah, trigger warnings. Big time, guys. Big time. This is bad news.
It really is. Okay. So it's August 30th, 2023 at around 10:45 a.m. in Ivins, Utah, when a Ring door cam picks up a young boy who is just in socks, no shoes, and he knocks on someone's door. An older man answers the door, and the boy asks him if he could do him 2 favors. And at first, the old man's kind of like, sounds like a grouchy old man, like, yeah, what do you need? Kind of thing. So the man's like, what is it? And the boy says, just 1 favor, actually. Can you take me to the nearest police station? Then the older man says, okay, what's going on, son? Have a seat. And they sit in like chairs on the front porch. And this guy looks like he's maybe in his late 60s. Okay. Moments later, a 911 call comes in from the older neighbor guy. And he says, I just had a 12-year-old boy show up at my front door asking for help. He said he just came from a neighbor's house. He's emaciated and he has tape around his legs. He's hungry and he's thirsty. Yeah. He has duct tape around each ankles. And it's at this point that the older man starts to cry.
Oh,
I know. It's
I'm gonna
heartbreaking.
Start to cry.
Mhm.
I'm very emotional lately.
I'm sorry. It's just like he's such a gruff old man at first and he just loses it, Yeah. He then says that it's obvious that this kid has been detained and he's covered in wounds. And in the background, you can hear a woman, presumably this guy's wife, and she's like, we need the police here now. So the man said that the boy told him that he doesn't live around here. And so the dispatcher asks the man to ask the boy if he knows who his parents are. And the man replies, he says his mom is Ruby Franke. So EMTs and officers arrive within minutes, and the EMT notices right away that the boy is malnourished and has serious injuries. This is awful because there's like body cam footage and like the EMTs are crying and an officer has to walk away for a minute and cry. It's so sad. It's so sad. I know. I'm sorry.
It's okay. I've already cried a lot this week.
Oh, good thing we're having a sister weekend this weekend.
It is a really good thing.
Yeah.
It's really bad.
Yeah.
Also, I got some soap in my eye when I was taking a shower today.
Oh no, sister.
Like I closed the cap on the Castile because it's like Dr. Bronner's. It's like the unscented Dr. Bronner's. I closed the cap and I swear to God, a whole droplet like jumped out of the container and like landed right in the center of my eyeball. It was so painful.
I'm
sorry. I just remembered that.
That's okay. Your eye looks very clean though. I've never seen such a clean eye. Just one.
Oh my God. Chaos Kids. I'm over here just sobbing right now. Like 1 paragraph or 2 paragraphs into her story.
Yeah.
Oh.
Okay.
Okay. So everybody's, it's rough all around. Nobody's
doing well. So there's duct tape around his ankles and wrists, and under the duct tape is saran wrap. And officers are catching all of this on their body cam. And the boy doesn't cry, but he's visibly wincing quite a bit while the EMTs are treating his wounds.
Yeah.
He says that Mom and Jody tied him to weights with ropes and handcuffs. And later, the boy tells investigators that he was able to unlock the handcuffs and escape through a sliding glass door that was in the room where he was chained.
Oh my God. Fuck.
Yeah. He also tells investigators that he has a sibling still back at the house.
Oh,
no. Yeah. This house belonged to Jody Hildenbrand.
Is that what he means by I don't live around here? Because this wasn't their house. This was somebody else's house.
Is Jody's house.
Okay.
And this is like it. They're calling it a neighborhood, but when you see photos, it's in like this canyon desert. And there's houses sort of placed around, but it's not like a neighborhood.
Right. It's like there's houses there. People live out there, but it's not like a suburban street where it's like house after house next to each other in rows and shit.
Right. And it's August and it is the desert, like 110 degrees. And he went to 2 other houses because he was caught on ring cams. This man was the only one that answered the door. So
are those people home or they just didn't answer?
Yeah, I think they weren't home.
Oh, okay.
So officers go over to Jody's house and knock on the door for quite some time before Jody answers. And she's such a fucking Karen. When she answers the door, she has her phone in her hand and she's like, I have my attorney on the line. And they're like, that's nice. We're coming in. Right? Yeah.
What the fuck?
Yeah.
Like what happened was she saw that the little boy was gone and she knew. Mm-hmm. She knew when the knock came that it was going to be the cops. Like she knew she was busted.
For sure she did. Yep.
Jesus.
So they go walking right past her. They're like, we're coming in. And she tries to ask them if they have a search warrant. And they inform her that due to exigent circumstances and a potential life-saving effort, they don't need a warrant.
Because there's another kid in there.
Mm-hmm. So police comb through the 10,000 square foot home.
Holy shit.
Yeah, looking for other children. And they're like, after seeing this 12-year-old boy and how emaciated he was and knowing that there's a younger sibling, they're looking in every nook and cranny that a normal-sized child would not be able to fit. But they're like, you never know. Like,
right?
You know,
like they could be in the tiny box. Who fucking knows?
Yeah, exactly. So it takes them a long time. So finally, in one of the many empty bedrooms, they find a small child sitting cross-legged in a closet, looking really, really scared.
Oh.
So officers believe that this is a little boy, but they aren't sure. And this kiddo is too scared to talk. So the officer who's looking at this little kiddo calls the officer who is at the hospital with the 12-year-old boy and asks him if he has a little brother. And he says, no, he has a little sister and her head was shaved. And despite being in the same home for who knows how long, he hadn't seen her in over a month.
What?
Mm-hmm. So it's a little girl with a shaved head. And so the officer asked the little girl if it would be okay if he sat with her, and she said yes. And he just sits there for a long time, kind of quietly, because she's just really scared, right? And she won't come out of the closet. He orders her a pizza and she eats the entire thing and says that she is still hungry. So they order a second large pizza and a milkshake, and she eats half of the second large pizza and all of the milkshake.
Jesus.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So meanwhile, the other officers are still looking for more children in this giant fucking house. And while they're doing this, Jody is being detained in one of the rooms. And they find some weird private room that is behind a door that looks like a wall safe, like with the big wheel kind of thing. They go in there and there's just handcuffs and ropes and all kinds of, it's like a little dungeon room.
Oh my God.
Yeah. So just as they are finally coming outside and the little girl has agreed to get up and go with the officers, Mom Ruby Franke is pulling in.
Okay.
Mm-hmm. Apparently she had, Jody, I'm sure, had called her or told her or whatever, and she comes in. She was also detained, and officers spend 6 hours with Jody and Ruby detained in separate rooms, collecting evidence in the home. And both women are charged with aggravated child abuse and are taken to the police station. The officer that is in the interview with Ruby says that she's just giving blank stares and like long, slow blinks when asked a question. Your face right now. Mm-hmm.
What?
Yeah. Yep.
Okay. Where this is headed, I just can't even fathom at this point, but
oh my God.
Going.
Okay. So they were able to get a hold of Ruby's husband, Kevin, and they learned from him that the two had 6 kids together. So the officer is like, I hear you have 6 kids, and just like more long, slow blinks. And then Ruby eventually says she wants to speak to her lawyer. So the interview is over.
Okay. So they get nothing out of her.
They get nothing but slow blinks. Yeah.
Wild. Okay.
Mm-hmm. So Ruby Franke has been a popular mommy vlogger since 2015.
Oh, no.
Mm-hmm.
Fuck.
She has a very successful YouTube channel called 8 Passengers. She is a Mormon housewife with 6 kids. And she started her channel all about life in Utah as a mom. At this time, the two oldest kids, Sherry and Chad, were both adults and had already moved out of the family home. And then in addition to these two little kids that they just found, there's also two teenage daughters that are unaccounted for.
Okay.
So on this channel, she has millions of followers. She shows a very strict but very loving household initially.
I'm getting Duggar vibes here. We're in Duggar territory. Like, we just do not believe the perfection people present to you on social fucking media or in YouTube channels.
No.
Mommy vloggers are like some of the fucking worst. I swear to God. Okay.
I know. Okay, so then in 2022, she partners with Jody Hildenbrandt, who is a therapist who also happens to be Ruby and Kevin's marriage counselor, and the two launch an online life coaching business called Connections.
Okay, I'm sorry. Life coaching. You know how I feel about life coaching. Okay.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Like what?
Well, this woman, she fucking sucks. She is a licensed therapist, but Ruby's not. She's a
mommy vlogger.
She's a mommy
vlogger. She's a
vlogger.
Mormon mommy vlogger. Let's be real.
Mm-hmm. So Ruby and her family actually live 3 hours away from Jody in Springville, Utah. So the Ivan police contact the Springville police and request that they go to the Franke home to try and locate these two teenage kids.
Right.
So when these officers knock on the door, they get no answer. So they stay parked outside of the home until they have their signed search warrant in hand, and then they force their way in. But the girls were not inside the Franke home. Then the oldest daughter, Sherry, who is 20 years old and away at college, contacts the police after she kind of gets wind of all this happening.
Right.
And she says that her sisters are likely at the rec center. So police go to the rec center, and one of the staff there said that the Franke daughters were picked up by an older woman who they didn't recognize. Like, I love the vetting process that's going on.
Really good looking out, guys. Good looking out at the rec center. Just some lady, I don't know. She came and got him. It's fine. Yeah. What? Fuck.
Well, this lady was okay. So they track down Pam Budger, who is one of Ruby's business associates. They go to Pam's house. Both girls are there. They're fine. And they're taken into temporary state custody, like CPS comes or whatever.
Right.
Later that day, they get a hold of husband and dad, Kevin. He goes to the Springville police station to try and find out what's going on. And he's brought into
footage of this interview.
Mm-hmm.
And
this guy.
Like, what the fuck is going on?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. This guy, I feel bad for him.
I'm partly I'm like, dude.
Well,
a year, Amber.
I know he hasn't seen his kids in over a year.
What?
Mm-hmm. Kevin says to the officers that he was struggling with a porn addiction. So he moved out, but was still actively in counseling with Ruby and Jody. And one of his conditions of this arrangement was no contact with his children, and he could only talk to Ruby if she initiated the conversation.
What does no contact with his children have anything to do with him getting better?
Nothing. And it sounds like he doesn't need to get better, because we'll get into fucking Jody in a second here. Yeah, she's also
tells me it was Jody's idea that he not contact his own children for over a year.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
Can you imagine? I mean, look, I'm not trying to I'm not mother of the year. I never fucking have been, right? My kid actually came to visit me while I was in fucking rehab. He was 5 and it was weird and it sucked. But you're not keeping your kids from you just because you're not well.
Right.
Unless you're on the fucking street and you know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
You don't put your kids in danger. I mean, they didn't drop him off. He came with his grandparents and stuff. It was all supervised, whatever. But I'm just saying, what benefit is there to any kid being removed from their parent for over a year just because they're working through some issues?
Exactly. Well, this is all about Ruby having the upper hand.
100%. Obviously.
Yeah. Yep. So at the time, Kevin really wanted to save his marriage. So he agreed to whatever terms Ruby and Jody decided, right?
Oh.
So police explained to Kevin what's going on, that the two youngest were in the hospital from severe injuries that were clearly child abuse. And Kevin is absolutely dumbfounded.
Uh-huh.
He's like, what do you even mean? Like, this isn't even adding up to me. But he's also not super willing to engage with them in a conversation that could be harmful to Ruby. So he's kind of just like, I need some more information. So after Ruby's arrest, her oldest daughter, Sherry, posts on Instagram a photo of her mom being arrested, because I think it might have been like captured by some like local paparazzis or whatever, kind of thing.
Sure.
And the caption says, finally.
Oh.
Oh, snap. Mm-hmm.
Okay, but why hasn't she told anyone?
Oh, she has. So then underneath that, it says, I know. It says, today has been a big day. Me and my family are so glad justice is being served. We have been trying to tell the police and CPS for years, and so glad they finally decided to step up. But they didn't step up. A 12-year-old little boy did.
Yeah, a 12-year-old little boy saved himself and his sister.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Well, Sherry herself had called CPS and requested a welfare check after learning from a neighbor that the younger kids had been left home alone for several days at a time. Like, all of this was after Kevin was already out of the home.
You heard about that other horrible story about the baby that died, right? Because the woman went on vacation for like 10 days and just left the baby at home.
Like in a playpen?
Yes.
Yeah.
That just happened.
Mm-hmm.
Fucking wild. I can't. Anyway, sorry, I did not mean to derail with more, like, even more morbid fucking, but yeah, this is all come out. This is all information I've received, this story and that, like, all kind of around the same time within like the last few weeks or whatever on the TikTok. But oh my God.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Well, aside from the calls that Sherry was making, there had been warnings on her YouTube channel, because Ruby is very proud to call herself a strict parent and fully owns it as, the right way to raise kids. But many people, myself included, would call what she is saying is strict as just abusive.
Right.
Yeah. In one of her many, many calls to Kevin from jail, she said, adults have a hard time understanding that kids can be evil.
What?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So here's just a couple of things that she did right there on YouTube for everyone to see. Her older son, Chad, was on the show one day saying that his bedroom was taken away for 7 months and he was sleeping on a beanbag in the bathroom.
In the what?
Yeah. In another video, Ruby had just gotten a call from her youngest daughter's teacher. This was the little girl that was found in the closet. At the time, this little girl was 6, and the teacher called because the little girl had forgotten to bring her lunch. And Ruby responds to the teacher by saying that she needs to go hungry and that nobody at the school had better give her any food because she is responsible for packing her own lunch, and this is the consequence of forgetting.
She's 6.
She's 6, and you don't withhold food as a punishment for anybody. So after viewing some of these problematic things, a change.org petition goes out and gets 18,000 signatures urging CPS to investigate the Frankes. And by 2023, the YouTube channel was gone.
Oh, well, we just won't show that anymore.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
But CPS still didn't go do anything.
Oh, according to them, they went several times and they refused to answer the door. And without any further evidence, they tried to get a search warrant and were denied because there wasn't enough evidence to get one.
This is reminding me of that horrible case you did a few weeks ago with the 2 white ladies that adopted all those beautiful brown babies and then killed them.
Oh my God. Yeah. Yeah. Oh my God. Yeah. The Hart family.
Yes.
Okay, so that's when, Jody enters the picture and things get much worse. Jody's a licensed therapist who works primarily with Mormons. She's from the church. She's got this great reputation in the Salt Lake area. She is referred to people at the church like, oh, if you need therapy and you're a Mormon family, this is your gal, right?
Oh my God. If you need therapy because you're in a cult, here's the cult approved fucking therapist.
Oh my God, right?
Yes, exactly.
Yeah. She'll get you on the right path. Oh my
Holy
God.
shit.
Mhm.
First we check your magic underwear.
Oh.
Make sure that the symbols are in the right place and everything's fitting right.
Magic underwear. So, since all this has gone down, former patients of Jody's have come forward with many complaints.
Mhm.
Her method was really to tell wives that their husbands needed to go, regardless of what the offense was.
Oh.
And that would give her an opportunity to isolate the wives and like get in their ears, right?
Mhm.
Several of the wives were saying that Jody was telling them all sorts of horrible things that their husbands had done and that they had confessed these things to her. And she ended up just ruining several marriages. One
First
guy,
of all, I mean, normally I'm like on the side of just get rid of the husband because he probably is a piece of shit because most of them are. But if they're having like private sessions with the husbands and then turning around and supposedly like divulging what the husband has told her in confidence to the wife, like, first of all, you're not supposed to have private sessions with the same therapist that you have joint sessions with.
Mhm.
You're supposed to have your own therapist.
Mhm.
There's just so much wrong with this on so many levels.
There's so much wrong, right? Well, after being reported to the board, she had her license suspended for 18 months. But despite
Okay, Dr.
this,
Phil. Sorry.
Oh God, how's that working for you?
Right.
She launches her online life coaching.
Well, you could be a life coach without any kind of accreditation or
Mhm.
license of any kind. You could just, you know what? That's what I'm gonna do with my new found. Yeah, I'm just gonna be a life coach, Am.
Mm,
That's what I'm gonna do.
mm.
I'm just gonna
I
make a
don't even like
website.
it when people ask me for advice. I'm like, don't fucking look at me. I am freestyling it every day.
We'll figure it out
Don't
together.
even,
It's fine.
don't even ask. Yeah, God, I can't do that. Then when she buddies up with, the Frankies initially as their therapist, shit gets real weird because something goes down at Jody's house. They don't say what, but she ends up moving in with the Frankies. And so now, like, yep.
I'm sorry. What?
Mm-hmm.
She moves in with them?
She moves in with them and she is like going on their anniversary dates with them and stuff.
And is this after she's like been like her license has been suspended?
Correct. The license is suspended.
But she's still operating as a licensed therapist.
Well, yeah, because at this point she is like also like business partners with Ruby because they're online life coaching. So she moves in. She's, like in between them in the bed, just all
So
snug as
they're
a
like
bug.
a throuple now.
Now they're a throuple. And ultimately she decides that Kevin has a pornography addiction and he's got to go. It's the only way he needs to go. And after that, Ruby basically leaves the two teenage daughters in the family home and takes the two younger kids and moves 3 hours away to Jody's house in Ivans. She's like, bye. Mm-hmm.
And Kevin has no idea.
No, The investigators are speaking with the 12-year-old boy and they learn that he was forced to stand in the sun in the desert for hours a day. He had to sleep outside. He was deprived of food and water. He had to carry boxes up and down the stairs all day. Like they would just hand him a heavy box and make him just do laps up and down the
What are
stairs.
we doing? What is going on?
He and his sisters had to go barefoot to the cemetery and pick up leaves. And on his birthday, he had to stand outside all day in the heat.
What the fuck?
When the little girl eventually talks, she says that Ruby and Jody would watch her in the shower and while she brushed her teeth to make sure that she wasn't, quote, stealing any water, meaning trying to drink it. The little boy was also forced to jump on the trampoline for 8 to 10 hours a day outside in the sun. And
What?
the investigators did find a little trampoline in the house that had like all this white like calcification from sweat. And the photographs, which I can't ever unsee, of his wrists and ankles are like deep, deep infected wounds. It's so sad. So now we're going to talk about 30-year-old Jessie Hildebrand. She's a tattoo artist and a musician in Seattle. She is also Jody's niece.
Okay.
In 2009, Jessie was a teenager living in California with her parents and 3 siblings. They grew up in a traditional Mormon household. And 2009, Jessie was 15, and the family took a trip to Utah to celebrate their grandparents' 50th wedding anniversary. And I believe this was Jody was hosting. So Jody's her aunt, right?
Okay.
Jessie gets in a fight with her mom about doing dishes that she didn't. I'm sorry. Jessie goes by they, them. My apologies. Gets in a fight with their mom about doing dishes because they didn't want to do it. So mom took Jessie's phone, and then Jessie went downstairs to Aunt Jody's basement and laid down and took a nap. And when they woke up, they were told that their parents and siblings had left and they weren't going with them.
What?
Mm-hmm. So Jessie's parents left them with Jody for Jody to whip them into shape and care for them.
And was this during the time that Kevin was gone?
No. This was back in 2009.
Oh, so way before then.
Yeah, this is just evidence
just
that
like during normal Jody discipline era.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. So Jessie was forced to cut off all their hair, not allowed to wear makeup or clothes that they wanted to wear, not permitted to go to school, was kept locked up in the basement where they were forced to pray and ask for forgiveness.
Was Jessie assigned male at birth?
Mm-mm.
Oh, okay.
Mm-mm. Then this is just gross. Jody was convinced that Jessie had had an abortion and that they were a sex addict, so much so that Jessie wasn't allowed to use tampons because Jody accused them of masturbating with them.
What?
Mm-hmm.
Does Jody's sister know about this stuff? Is this how they were raised?
I have no idea. I got the impression that Jessie has completely since disconnected from their family, but
I mean, word.
Yeah. Jessie wasn't allowed to use...
Escape Mormonism, you guys. Escape Mormonism. It's a cult. Mm-hmm. Call your dad.
It is a cult. Call your dad.
But no, don't call your dad. Call me.
He's
I've got
probably an elder.
Send me, yes. Fuck that. Never mind. Send me an email. crimewineandchaos@gmail.com. We got you. Get the fuck out.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Jody wasn't allowed to go to the bathroom. Their mouth was duct tape closed so that they would speak to anyone. They had to sleep outside in the snow.
This is Jessie.
In 2010, Jessie would go to work with Jody since they weren't allowed to go to school. And Jody had a counseling practice at this time in the Salt Lake area. And Jessie said Jody would put them in a little room off of her office, and they would be in there up to 12 hours a day.
Jesus Christ.
And one of Jody's colleagues noticed that this was going on, and they had found a jacket in the office that somebody had left. And so they dropped it in the closet knowing that Jessie lived in there and that it was cold.
Oh my God.
So the next time that Jessie got put in the closet and they saw that there was a jacket, they put it on and ran away and stayed in a homeless shelter until they were able to get on their feet.
Love Jessie. Sending Jessie so much love.
Mm-hmm. Jessie's now in Seattle, thriving as an artist.
Awesome.
Yeah. Okay, so back to Ruby. A big part of the Mormon religion is journaling. It's seen as a sacred journey to God. Don't know. And a lot of it is just like your daily goings on. Like, this is what I did today. And luckily, Ruby had been doing exactly that. So during the search warrant execution, the police find this journal, and the journal documents the entire summer, day by day. At the start of the journal, it's the 12-year-old boy's birthday. And in her journal, she says that she told him that he emulates a snake. And if he wants to be a savior, he needs to emulate one. Then Mm-hmm. Yep. And she writes in her journal that he was told to stand in the sun all day, just as he said. She refers to him as defiant. And she says that she went outside to check on him with a cactus poker and poked his back for him to get back in the sun when she found him in the shade.
Oh my God.
Mm-hmm. Then on July 14th, she writes about how the younger daughter refused to work, so her hair is shaved off. Ruby describes both of her children in the journal as demons that must repent.
This is some like Lori Vallow shit too.
Yeah. Okay, I was thinking about this, like this, and then like Andrea Yates, which I know that was like postpartum, but there's like a religious psychosis.
That's a
That
real thing. No,
is
that's a
that.
real thing.
Mhm.
Like religious psychosis is a real thing. Did you hear about the woman who recently killed her baby, almost killed her daughter, her 9-year-old, and like murdered her partner or husband and then killed herself in a car crash because of the eclipse?
Mm-mm.
Yeah, she was in like spiritual psychosis and she had like massive following online, on like spiritual talk or whatever. And she was convinced that she was going to ascend to the fifth dimension because of the eclipse. She stabbed
Mhm.
and murdered her partner, put her kids in the car, threw the 9-month-old out of the car on the freeway. It died. I think she threw the 9-year-old out, or the baby was maybe younger. Anyway, threw the 9-year-old out, but the 9-year-old lived. And then she like literally ran her car into like a barricade or a brick wall or something and killed herself in the crash.
Oh my God.
She was in spiritual psychosis.
Mm-hmm. God damn it. It's so spooky.
Yes.
Oh, okay. So she also refers to Jody in her journal as Jijo. I don't really know what that means. She talks about Jijo helping her to shave her daughter's head and then dousing her with water in the dog wash. So by July 2023, the little boy made his first attempt to run away. He had been sleeping outside and he left a statement in rocks saying, "Jail, I will call when I get there." Because it sounded like he believed that because of his sins, he was going to jail and he would rather do that than be left with his mom. So
Oh my
I don't,
God.
he was going to take himself to jail, I guess.
Oh.
But Ruby and Jody drove around searching for the little boy and finally found him walking down the road and brought him back to Jody's house. It was after this that he was regularly handcuffed and bound to the weights so that he couldn't get away.
Right.
And Ruby also documents that in her journal, that he was handcuffed and put on weights. And then Jody and Ruby start looking for land in Arizona where they can live like in an isolated.
It always progresses to land in the middle of nowhere so we can isolate and do our weird shit in peace.
Yeah. Do our weird shit in peace. So Ruby and Jody are in custody pending trial. And in the meantime, they are both making phone calls from jail that are being recorded. And one of the things Ruby says is that apparently it's a crime to discipline your kids and that if he has injuries, he did it to himself.
Holy shit. She's sticking to it.
She's doubling down. Yeah. And they're like proclaiming their innocence, right? So in the meantime, Kevin's learning all of this for the first time. And initially, he's wanting to make sure to stay loyal to his wife. But as time goes on and Kevin is learning more and more about what Ruby has done, he slowly starts to turn on her.
Well, I'm assuming that the older child, the one that was like feeling very vindicated, was probably like, Dad, let me tell you.
Yeah. So he finally gets the full scoop and it becomes super obvious that like the plan all along was to get him out of the picture so that him and, Jody could do this and all the things. So Kevin has since filed for divorce. Mm-hmm. And then as time passes and Ruby has distance from Jody, she starts to come around in acknowledging that she was abusive and awful to her kids. And she seems to start taking accountability. She agrees to testify against Jody. And by the winter of 2023, Ruby felt that the right thing to do was to accept responsibility for her actions and for Jody to do the same. On December 18th, 2023, Ruby pled guilty to 4 felony charges of aggravated child abuse. However, Jody doesn't go to trial. She also enters a guilty plea for the same charges, likely because she knew that Ruby was going to testify.
Yeah.
Yeah. So apparently in Utah, they have like this. So the sentencing range was 4 to 30 years, but the judge doesn't give like an affirmed sentence. Like the established time is ultimately established by the parole board. So every time you come up for parole, it's like maybe you'll be released, maybe not, and that can potentially go on for 30 years.
Or they could both be out in 4.
Correct. The earliest they could be out would be 2027. So the younger kids are still together and in foster care, and Kevin is trying to get custody of all of his kids.
He has the teenagers?
I believe so, yeah. That is fucking Ruby Franke. Sorry, I dominated a lot of that time, sister.
No, that story is fucking wild.
Mm-hmm.
I hate it.
Yeah.
I wonder how many other kids are going through shit like that right now and nobody knows.
I know.
That's what I think about.
Mm-hmm.
Also, fuck mommy vloggers, dude.
Mm-hmm.
What the heck?
It's, yeah.
Don't put your kids online for anything, first of all. Second of all, Mormon mommy vloggers are look, if we have any listeners that are Mormon, I love you. I'm not judging you. I'm just saying, like, save yourself.
I'm just saying.
You know, because I love you and I want you to get out.
Yeah. Yeah.
Well, thanks for that, sister. Making me cry.
You're welcome. Sorry about it.
No, it's great. It's great. You're not, it's like sorry, not sorry. You know what I
Sorry,
mean?
not sorry. Yeah, I do.
Well, how about some chaos?
I love it. Is it a palate cleanser?
Not really.
Okay, great.
So in May of 1970, the United States had been in what was really a proxy war with Russia for going on 15 years. It was called the Vietnam War. Officially, the war was between North and South Vietnam, with the North supported by the Soviet Union, China, and other communist countries, and the South supported by the US and other anti-communist allies. Initially, the U.S. had an official involvement in the first few years of around 1,000 military advisors by 1959, but that increased under JFK to around 23,000 military advisors by 1964. This had all started in 1955. So by 1964, we're talking 9 years, 23,000 military advisors. And then JFK was assassinated in November of 63, and his vice president, one of the most evil men in history, Lyndon B. Johnson, became the president. And by August of 1964, Congress passed a resolution that gave the president broad authority to increase U.S. military presence in Vietnam without having to actually formally declare war. And that's when Johnson ordered the deployment of combat troops for the first time, and dramatically increased the number of American troops to 184,000.
Fuck.
Over the next few years, U.S. casualties in Vietnam skyrocketed. Prior to this escalation of U.S. involvement, there had been less than 200 American deaths in Vietnam. After the escalation, the death toll for American troops each year was more than the last, with almost 2,000 in 1965, over 6,000 in 1966, over 11,000 in 1967, almost 17,000 in 1968, and almost 12,000 in 1969.
Jeez.
So let's just take a moment. That's over 48,000 dead American troops in the span of 5 years.
Wow. God, that's awful.
And like, this is anecdotal, but so many people have stories about the names on the nightly news, about the fear of getting the draft card, about the military cars that would show up in a neighborhood and everyone would watch to see whose house they were going to deliver the news to the family that their son or their husband was dead.
Mm-hmm.
Initially, the American public was pretty apathetic to what was going on in Vietnam. There were some early protests by the Quakers, like in 1955 or whatever, 56, the Quakers are just anti-war in general. I mean, they were also like strong abolitionists and fought to end slavery. So they have righteous beliefs all around. But by 1964, with the draft still looming larger as more troops were being sent to fight, protests started to ramp up. And over the next 5 to 6 years, it only increased, due in no small part to the fact that so many young men were coming home in caskets or permanently wounded and mentally scarred.
Yeah.
And it's also well known at this point that today that there was a lot of drug use amongst the troops for all the obvious reasons. And so many of these men came home with like crippling addictions in addition to all their other issues.
Mm-hmm.
So when President Nixon announced on April 30th of 1970 that not only was the war nowhere near ending, but indeed expanding into Cambodia, one of Vietnam's neighbors, the already angry and opposed youth, and probably others as well, they held more protests.
Mm-hmm.
They had just lived through the deadliest year of the war the year prior, and now the president is expanding. I mean, hindsight being what it is, for anyone with any degree of humanity or intelligence to defend any involvement of the U.S. in Vietnam, especially considering how long it would ultimately last, 20 years, by the way, it was 20 years, and how many lives would be lost all around because of it. Anyway, College campuses around the country were a hotbed of protest activity. The young will always show up to fight for the righteous cause, not least of all because it was often their friends and their siblings that would be put in harm's way for this war that they didn't believe in.
Yep.
So on Friday, May 1st, at Kent State University, a demonstration, this is the day, 2 days, I think, after this speech where Nixon has said, we're going to go into Cambodia now. Kent State University, a demonstration of about 500 students was held on the Commons, a grassy knoll at the center of campus, often used as a gathering place for protests and rallies. The crowd dispersed around 1 p.m. to head off to afternoon classes, and a plan was made to come back for another rally on Monday, May 4th. There was a lot of anger at this rally. A group of history students buried a copy of the Constitution to symbolize that Nixon had killed it. There was a sign put on a tree that said, quote, "Why is the ROTC building still standing?"
Shit.
And another protest kicked up that afternoon by the Black United Students, and about 400 students attended that. And it also ended peacefully around 3:45 p.m.
Okay.
But then Nixon had to open his fucking mouth again. He arrived at the Pentagon later during the day on that Friday and was greeted by some Pentagon employees. And one woman said to him about his speech the night before concerning the invasion of Cambodia, quote, "I loved your speech. It made me proud to be an American."
Okay, lady. Wow. All right.
To which Nixon responded, quote, "You see these bums, blowing up campuses. Listen. The boys that are on the college campuses today are the luckiest people in the world, going to the greatest universities. And here they are, burning up the books, storming around this issue, you name it. Get rid of the war, there will be another one."
Jesus. God, this guy. Cool.
Fucking
cool,
warmongers,
Yeah.
That night in Kent, some shit popped off around midnight in the downtown Main Street area. Some people left a bar and were throwing beer bottles at police cars because ACAB, but also breaking storefront windows. And in the process, a bank window was busted, which set off an alarm, and news spread quickly. Several bars closed on their own to avoid trouble, and more vandalism ensued. And by the time police arrived, there were about 120 people gathered. Some people from the crowd lit a fire in the street. The crowd appeared to be a mix of students, bikers, and some transient people, as they were described. Probably houseless people who were just like trying to sleep and, well, what's going on out here? Some more beer bottles got thrown at police, allegedly. The entire Kent police force was called in.
Okay.
Along with officers from the county and surrounding communities. The mayor declared a state of emergency.
Okay.
He called the governor asking for help and ordered all the bars to close. But that decision to close all the bars just made things more tense. And eventually the cops hit the crowd with tear gas and forced them out of the downtown area and back towards campus. So the next day, Saturday, things got ridiculous. And the rumors and all that shit were flying. City officials and businesses supposedly received threats. There were also supposedly radical revolutionaries in Kent that wanted to destroy the city and the university.
Okay.
Right.
Sure there were.
A bunch of shop owners claimed that they were told they needed to display anti-war slogans or have their buildings burned to the ground. And the Kent police chief told the mayor that according to a reliable informant, the ROTC building, the local army recruiting station, and the post office were all targeted for destruction that night, Saturday night.
Yeah. The trusted informant. Okay.
Yeah, because we all hate that fucking post office building.
I know. I know.
Fucking post office.
Damn it. Sending your letters and shit.
Right?
Mm-hmm.
Rumors were also going around that students had stashes of guns, plots to spike the town water supply with LSD, and, of course, students building tunnels to blow up the town's main store.
Okay. Okay.
So the mayor asked the governor if he can bring in the National Guard, and the governor was like, fuck yeah. No hesitation.
Nothing good happens when the National Guard shows up.
Never. By 10 p.m. that night, the National Guard was in Kent and a large demonstration was fully underway on campus. The ROTC building was burning. So
that part was true.
No one was injured in the fire, and investigations afterwards determined it was mostly not Kent State students who started the fire. It had been planned beforehand because they found items around the building like railroad flares, a machete, and some ice picks. And they're like, those are not things that one takes to like a peaceful rally. Like this was not just an impromptu burning of the building in the midst of a protest. Like people came here to do this, right?
Right. Mm-hmm.
And like, side note, this is what happens, right? Like you have protests, they're legitimately peaceful, and like provocateurs take advantage of that. Sometimes those provocateurs are actually planted by the state to discredit the protesters. This is a long tried and true tactic. Okay.
Yep.
So some reports stated that firemen and police officers who were attempting to put out the fire were struck by rocks and other objects. And several fire companies had to be called in because protesters carried the fire hose onto the commons and slashed it. Look, there's nobody in the building. Nobody's hurt. Like, fuck the military. We're in the middle of a war. They're drafting my friends and they're all fucking dying. Like, I don't care if the ROTC building burns to the ground. Do you know what I'm saying? Like, It's a building, not a human being, right? Like, I get it.
I mean, we've talked about this a million times about how the state cares oftentimes more about property than people.
They always care more about property than people. Yes, always.
Yeah.
The National Guard made numerous arrests, mostly for curfew violations, and they did use tear gas. At least one student was slightly wounded with a bayonet.
I'm sorry, I don't know what a slight bayonet wound is, but
right?
I don't think that's a thing.
What I'm saying. I'm using air quotes around slightly because, I don't know how that happens. Like, what does that mean?
God.
The governor of Ohio held a press conference the next day on Sunday, the 3rd. He called the student protesters un-American.
Because they don't want their fellow citizens to die?
Right.
Okay, that makes sense.
And he also said they were revolutionaries set on destroying higher education in Ohio.
Okay.
They literally completely missed the message here.
Yeah.
Every time. Wait.
Every time.
Every time. We're so clear. We are so clear on our problem. In his speech, he also said, quote, "We are going to eradicate the problem. We're not going to treat the symptoms. And these people just move from one campus to the other and terrorize the community. They're worse than the brown shirts and the communist element and also the night riders and the vigilantes. They're the worst type of people that we harbor in America. Now, I want to say this. They are not going to take over campus. I think that we're up against the strongest, well-trained, militant, revolutionary group that has ever assembled in America."
Whoa.
He's talking about students. He's talking about college students.
Yeah.
He also claimed he would obtain a court order declaring a state of emergency that would ban further demonstrations, and he gave the impression that a situation akin to martial law had been declared. However, he never attempted to obtain that order. So he made it sound like it was martial law, but he didn't technically have martial law in place.
It's just a scare tactic.
I think so. During the day, some students came to downtown Kent to help with the cleanup efforts after the rioting from Saturday, which was met with mixed reactions from local business people. Under pressure from frightened citizens, the mayor put a curfew in place until further notice. Around 8 p.m. Sunday evening, another rally was held on the campus commons. By 8:45, the National Guard used tear gas to disperse the crowd, and the students reassembled at the intersection of Lincoln and Main, holding a sit-in with the hopes of gaining a meeting with the mayor and the university president. At 11 p.m., the National Guard announced that a curfew had gone into effect and began forcing the students back to their dorms. And a few more students were bayoneted by the National Guard.
For sitting there peacefully protesting, they used bayonets. Jesus Christ.
I want you to understand, and I need everyone to understand, this is always how they do it. This is always what they do. The state always enacts violence on peaceful protesters, always. So on Monday the 4th, there was already a protest planned, remember? They had decided this on Friday. It was scheduled to start at noon. But Kent University tried to ban that rally. They handed out 12,000 leaflets declaring that the event was canceled. And about 2,000 people showed up anyway. Because the people united will never be defeated. They all gathered on the Commons near Taylor Hall, with the beginning of the protest marked by the ringing of the iron victory bell, which had historically been used when the football team won a game. The crowd was in kind of like two groups. There were 200 to 300 gathered around the bell on the Commons, and then the other 100 plus were on a hill like behind the first crowd. And it was mostly students of Kent State, but also some Kent State dropouts and some high school students. There was someone who gave a speech. People had flags of some kind. By all accounts, there were no leaders here, and the whole thing was peaceful and relatively quiet. But the university didn't want them there, and neither did the mayor or the governor. So the National Guard had to borrow a bullhorn from the university police department, and they started announcing to the crowd, you don't got to go home, but you can't stay here, right? Like, you got to get out of here. But it wasn't loud enough because it got no response from the crowd. So then one of the campus police pulled up to the crowd in a Jeep, and he had 3 National Guardsmen in the Jeep with him, and he began using the bullhorn to order the students to break it up. The response to that was all of them flipping him the middle finger, singing protest songs, and chanting.
Okay.
And as the Jeep drove off in defeat, some rocks were thrown at it.
Okay.
So now it's tear gas time.
It's always tear gas time.
Mm-hmm. But it wasn't very successful because the canisters, even though they were being lobbed by grenade launchers, like fell short and like just made the crowd retreat a little bit. Plus, like the wind was blowing in the wrong direction. So it was like blowing this, like the tear gas, like away from the crowd. And then some of them grabbed the canisters and tossed them back at the National Guard.
Oh my God. Playing hot potato with tear gas canisters. Mm-hmm.
And then they just started chanting, pigs off campus, pigs off campus, pigs off campus.
Oh, shit.
And more loudspeaker demands to the crowd to disperse were ignored. That's when the guard was ordered to advance with their weapons locked and loaded.
Fuck. More bayonets?
Most of them had rifles with bayonets. Some of them had handguns.
Oh my God.
There were multiple companies, like troops, in this group of 96 National Guardsmen. At least one of them had been told to only fire into the air and for only a single one of them to do so if necessary. But it is unclear if the other companies received these same instructions. So the protesters are pushed back with more tear gas as the guard advances on them, and some more rocks are thrown to, little effect. They go up and over a hill heading out of the Commons and become like a loose group moving through campus, past a couple buildings, and eventually a bunch of them end up in one of the parking lots. They kind of like hung a left towards the parking lot, but the guards didn't follow them. They like went straight for like no good reason. They marched themselves onto an athletic field, and it's enclosed by a chain link fence. So they hit this fence and then spend a good 10 minutes just standing there with their weapons, apparently unsure how to get out of the area without just retracing their steps. And so they're in this fenced in corner, and the students are kind of in a bunch of loose groups. They've broken up. They're not in one big crowd anymore. And like some of them are in the parking lot, which is near this field. Some of them are in front of the cops or the National Guard. Some of them are kind of off to the left. So they're smaller groups. They're still groups of students, but they're not one big group anymore. Mm-hmm. And so they're in this corner, and the guards they have their backs to the fence. So then they get into this huddle or something. Like they kind of get into this huddle, like they're talking to each other. Like, what are we going to do? They'd cleared the Commons, and a bunch of the students had also left. But now, like, more rocks are being thrown. So then the National Guard fires tear gas, like, at multiple locations at these different groups. They're, like, lobbing tear gas kind of willy-nilly at these different kind of groupings of protesters. Mm-hmm. And just before departing the field, some members of one of the companies are ordered to kneel and, like, aim their weapons towards the parking lot. And at the same time, one person, likely an officer, fired a handgun into the air. And then the guard was told to regroup and move up the hill back the way they came. And so they're doing that. A few more rocks get thrown at them. The crowd that was at the top of the hill parted to allow the guards to pass through. And after reaching Taylor Hall, the National Guard fired at protesters that were following them. And they gave no warning to anyone that they would open fire.
They just turned around and shot the protesters?
It started with a sergeant who turned and began firing at the crowd behind them with his .45. Several guardsmen nearest the students also turned and fired their rifles. In all, at least 29 of the 77 guardsmen claimed to have fired their weapons using an estimated total of 67 rounds of ammunition.
Jesus Christ.
The shooting supposedly lasted for 13 seconds, but others say it was at least a full minute or longer. It's hard to know. You know, when time slows down and it feels longer than it is in the scary moment. A lot of the protesters started running or dropping to the ground, but some people assumed they had to be firing blanks, not actual bullets.
Right.
And they only reacted appropriately after they saw actual bullets hitting actual people.
Oh my God.
One unidentified witness would later tell a reporter, quote, "Suddenly they turned around, got on their knees as if they were ordered to. They did it all together, aimed. And personally, I was standing there saying, they're not going to shoot. They can't do that. If they're going to shoot, it's going to be blank." Chris Butler, who later formed the band The Waitresses, was there with his friend Jeffrey Miller. Butler said that as the guardsmen formed in a kneeling position and pointed their rifles, quote, "Everybody laughed because, come on, you're not going to shoot us."
Oh, God.
Another unidentified person told the press, quote, "The shots were definitely coming my way because when a bullet passes your head, it makes a crack. I hit the ground behind the curve looking over. I saw a student hit. He stumbled and fell to where he was running towards the car. Another student tried to pull him behind the car. Bullets were coming through the windows of the car. As this student fell behind the car, I saw another student go down next to the curb on the far side of the automobile, maybe 25 or 30 yards from where I was lying. It was maybe 25, 30, 35 seconds of sporadic firing. The firing stopped. I lay there maybe 10 or 15 seconds. I got up. I saw 4 or 5 students lying around the lot. By this time, it was like mass hysteria. Students were crying. They were screaming for ambulances. I heard some girls screaming, 'They didn't have blank. They didn't have blank.'" No. Another witness was Chrissy Hind, a Kent State student who would become the lead singer of The Pretenders.
Wow.
In her 2015 autobiography, Hind described what she saw. Quote, "Then I heard the ta-ta-ta-ta-ta-ta-ta sound. I thought it was fireworks. An eerie sound fell over the common. The quiet felt like gravity pulling us to the ground. Then a young man's voice. 'They fucking killed somebody.' Everything slowed down and the silence got heavier. The ROTC building, now nothing more than a few inches of charcoal, was surrounded by National Guardsmen. They were all on one knee and pointing their rifles at us. Then they fired. By the time I made my way to where I could see them, it was still unclear what was going on. The guardsmen themselves looked stunned. We looked at them, and they looked at us. They were just kids, 19 years old, like us, but in uniform, like our boys in Vietnam." Jared Casale, visual artist and future bassist/singer of Devo, also witnessed the shootings. In 2005, Casale told the Vermont Review, quote, "All I can tell you is that it completely and utterly changed my life. I was a white hippie boy, and then I saw exit wounds from M1 rifles out of the backs of 2 people I knew. 2 of the 4 people who were killed, Jeffrey Miller and Ellison Krause, were my friends. We were all running our asses off from these motherfuckers. It was total, utter bullshit. Live ammunition and gas masks. None of us knew. None of us could have imagined. They shot into a crowd that was running from them. I stopped being a hippie, and I started to develop the idea of devolution. I got real pissed off. In the paper that evening, the Akron Beacon Journal said that students were running around armed and that officers had been hurt. So deputy sheriffs went out and deputized citizens. They drove around with shotguns, and there was martial law for 10 days. 7 p.m. curfew. It was open season on the students. We lived in fear. Helicopters surrounding the city with hourly rotating runs out to the west side and back downtown. All First Amendment rights are suspended at the instance when the governor gives the order. All of the class action suits by the parents of the slain students were all dismissed out of court because once the governor announced martial law, they had no right to assemble. Later, many of the guardsmen would claim they feared for their lives, listing all kinds of reasons. They were that was the end of his quote, was the right to assemble. So later, many of the guardsmen would claim they feared for their lives, listing all kinds of reasons. They were surrounded, they were being charged, the sky was black with stones, someone fired at them. Multiple ones of them said that like they were being sniped at. But most of them just said other people were firing, and so they fired too. Even the FBI didn't buy most of their stories or reasons, and that some of them were definitely lying, and no one fired at the guard first. The crowd of students were pissed, and some of them wanted to attack the guard. Several hundred sat down in the commons demanding to know what the fuck. They were told to disperse or be shot at again.
Oh my God. Fuck off.
One of the college professors literally implored them to leave. He said, I don't care whether you've never listened to anyone before in your lives. I am begging you right now. If you don't disperse right now, they're going to move in and it can only be a slaughter. Would you please listen to me? Jesus Christ, I don't want to be a part of this. And that seemed to work. The professor's son was there that day, and he said he absolutely saved my life and hundreds of others. When all was said and done, 4 students were dead. Jeffrey Miller, shot through the mouth, killed instantly. Allison Krauss, shot in the chest, dead on arrival at the hospital. William Schroeder, shot in the chest, died later at the hospital in surgery. And Sandra Lee Schuer, shot in the neck, died shortly after being shot from loss of blood.
Jeez.
9 other students were injured, one of them with a fractured vertebrae that would leave him paralyzed from the chest down for the rest of his life. Initially, newspapers would claim some of the National Guard had been killed or seriously injured, but none of that was true.
Not a single injury?
There was one officer who had an injury that had to be treated. He had his arm in a sling, but it was from before the shooting started. The Kent State shootings really tipped the scale on the anti-war sentiment in the States, especially because of the photographs splashed all over the papers. One of them is iconic. One Kent State student, John Philo, captured the image of Marianne Vecchio screaming over the dead body of Jeffrey Miller. His photograph would win a Pulitzer Prize and become the most enduring image of the events and of the anti-Vietnam War movement. The shootings led to protests on campuses across the country, big ones, violent ones. In September of 1970, 24 students and 1 faculty member identified from photographs were indicted on charges connected either with the May 4 demonstration or the one at the ROTC building fire 3 days before. They became known as the Kent 25. 5 cases, all related to the burning of the ROTC building, went to trial. 1 non-student defendant was convicted on 1 charge, and 2 other non-students pleaded guilty. 1 other defendant was acquitted, and charges were dismissed against the last 20. In December of 1971, all charges against the remaining 20 were dismissed for lack of evidence. A grand jury indicted 5 of the guardsmen on felony charges, and 3 were indicted on misdemeanor charges. The guardsmen claimed to have fired in self-defense, and that testimony was generally accepted by the criminal justice system, and they were let go without discipline. In November of 1974, U.S. District Court dismissed civil rights charges against all accused because the government had not shown that the defendants had shot students with an intent to deprive them of specific civil rights. It is vital that state and National Guards officials not regard this decision as authorizing or approving the use of force against demonstrators, whatever the occasion of the issue involved. Such use of force is and was deplorable, but excusable. Civil actions were also attempted against the guardsmen, the state of Ohio, and the president of Kent State. The federal court civil action for wrongful death and injury brought by the victims and their families against the governor, the president of Kent State, and the National Guardsmen was ultimately resulted in a total judgment in favor of the plaintiffs for $675,000 and the defendants' agreement to state publicly that they regretted what had happened.
Regretted it. I see.
And of course, this is where we get the anthem of a whole generation of boomers by Crosby, Stills, Nash & Young's Ohio. Tin soldiers and Nixon's coming.
Uh-huh. Got it.
We're finally on our own.
Mm-hmm.
4 dead in Ohio. That's what that is.
Wow.
That's what that is. It's the Kent State shootings.
Shit, sister. That was a full circle moment. That was fucking terrible.
Yeah. And just for the record, just because they use quote unquote non-lethal rounds now on protesters and shit doesn't mean that they're not dangerous.
Oh yeah, blanks are extremely dangerous.
Well, they don't use blanks. They use quote unquote rubber bullets, which are
those are also very dangerous.
Very dangerous.
Very painful. And you can die from a rubber bullet.
Yes, you can.
Oh,
yeah, they use live ammunition on those kids.
God, that's awful. Cool. Cool. I hate everything. Thanks for that.
I'm sorry. I mean, I've definitely seen a documentary about this too, because I've always known like kind of like the literal bullet point of like 4 Vietnam protesters at Kent State were killed by police at a protest. I always knew about that, and I'm familiar with the photo, and I know about the song and that it's about that. And then I had seen this documentary a while ago and like saw there was like actual footage and stuff and like photographs. So you could like really get a better sense of like what really happened. And it was like, oh, this is bad.
Really bad.
This is really bad. And what the fuck were they doing? Shooting at college kids, like with real fucking weapons and real bullets. It's baffling to me.
Wow. Well, they regret it.
You gotta wonder like maybe. But you gotta wonder like how much of that like propaganda they believed about like these revolutionaries that were armed to the teeth, ready to like, burn America to the ground or whatever.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like that's literally how like these college kids were painted. Like anyone who was like against the war, anyone who was like kind of middle America or like conservative America was like, these were all criminals. These were all commies. These were all, revolutionaries that wanted to kill the American dream or whatever,
Right. Bunch of riffraff hippies, stoners.
Yes.
Idiots. Yeah.
Yes. Lowlifes, whatever. Yeah.
Right.
And really, it was just a bunch of fucking college kids.
Yeah.
Most of them probably from like, you're just normal homes. You know what I mean? Like these were just regular American, like 20 somethings, if that 19-year-old, like I didn't know until I wrote this today that Chrissie Hynde was there though. That's crazy. I did not know that.
God, some great music came out of that decade.
It's true. It's true. Apparently some incredible artists came out of there, literally out of that college during that time.
Yeah.
Oh, well, sister, that was a lot. And that was a long one. Either you're welcome or we're sorry. I'm not sure which one you want, Chaos Kids.
Yeah.
Maybe some of you it's an apology and some of it's you're welcome. I'm not sure. But we made it. We're on all the things. Go find us on all the things. Rate us, write us a review, send us an email, all the things. Join the Patreon, get a bonus episode every month and get your episodes a day early. And one of these days we'll have another virtual wine night because those are fucking fun. So
$5 a month gets you in.
$5. It's so great. It's like less than a cup of coffee. I mean, at a nice coffee shop,
Right.
Right. Sister, that was so fucking
chaotic. I love you.
I love you.
Bye. Crime, Wine, and Chaos is produced by 8th Direction Records. Artwork by Joshua M. Davis. Music by Paul Abner. If you would like to support the show, you can visit our Patreon page at Crime, Wine, and Chaos /Patreon. Cheers. So I have 2 computer mouses, and I keep going to the wrong one to scroll.